In this video, we are going to look at rearranging columns and hiding columns or showing additional columns in Eldermark financials. And to do this, we're going to use the bills and adjustment screen to illustrate it when we're entering an accounts payable invoice or AP bill. We just come up to menu on the top, go to accounts payable, go into the data entry area, and open the bills and adjustment screen. Now, in a previous video on entering your first AP bill, we entered this sample monthly phone expense AP invoice or AP bill. But one thing that was kind of annoying is down on the bottom here, we had a lot of columns, even though we only really cared about the EXT cost, the account, and maybe the transaction description column. So what we're looking at in this video is how we can rearrange the columns and hide some of these columns so it's not as cluttered down here. First, to rearrange the columns, let's say I want to take this EXT cost column. I can move it by just using my left mouse button. Just hold that down, and then while you're holding it down, you can drag it maybe over here in front of inventory ID. You see I get those nice red arrows telling me where it wants to put the column once I let go of my mouse button. So I'll take my finger off the left mouse button, and then that drops my EXT cost field right here. I'll do the same thing with account and transaction description. So now I've moved the fields that I care about more to the front of the grid. But I still have all these other fields after transaction description that maybe I'm never going to use. So it'd be nice if I could hide them all together and not even see them on the screen. To do that, you just come up to this little icon in the upper left-hand corner of the grid. We'll click this. And then we get two areas. We get the available columns area and the selected columns area. Selected columns is what's currently showing on the screen. Available columns is showing me the columns that are hidden and are not being shown on the screen. So if I want to start removing these columns after transaction description, I could either start highlighting them individually and then using this arrow to move them over into the available columns area, or I can hold down the control key on my keyboard to select columns multiple at a time, then click the arrow to move them all over. Or if I click off of here, click back here, I can use the shift key on my keyboard to highlight everything in between two columns. So I'll click on tax category with the shift key held down, and now it highlights all the columns. Multiple ways to do it. At the end of the day, I just want to get these columns out of the selected columns area and into the available columns area using this arrow button here. So I'll use that, and now I've just moved all the columns into the available columns area. So now when I click OK, you can see my grid looks a lot cleaner. I've hidden all of those columns that I don't care about. So not only is that going to be nice for when I'm looking at an existing AP bill, but I think it's even nicer for when you're entering a new one. So let's say I was going to do a quick new AP bill, maybe pick that same vendor. And when I come down here in the grid, now when I'm tabbing between fields, maybe I put in that same information, I don't have to tab through as many fields. It's faster for me doing data entry. Also, if I were to go back here to my AP bill that we started with, you'll notice that even though I'm only seeing these columns currently, I haven't lost my other columns. I can always come back here to this little icon and bring the columns back into the grid just using the other arrow button. So they're not gone, they're just hidden. And then lastly, I'll point out that this is user specific. So when you're rearranging columns, hiding columns, showing additional columns, it is specific to your user. So if another user were to log into Eldermark financials, go to the same AP bill, they might see a different set of columns. It's really your preference, which is nice because then you can arrange the columns in the order that you want, only show the columns that you use, and you know that you're not affecting any of the other users in the system.